Hey everybody, I'm Elizabeth Mays and welcome to The Creative Voice.
And I'm Danny Wu, co-host of the show.
And today on our first episode, we are interviewing Ivan Montoya.
Hi everyone.
This series is brought to you in partnership with the Detroit chapter of the AIGA, a volunteer-based membership organization that advocates for creative professionals.
And this year, The Creative Voice will be the official podcast coverage for Design Core Detroit's Month of Design. Follow us for social updates on the events covered. Be sure to subscribe to us on the podcast for more episodes this month. Let's talk about that solo show, Samias.
Yes.
You had a collector's preview dinner, an exhibition, and an artist talk, which was quite an undertaking. And to be fair, I think because it was a debut solo show, there was probably a lot more pressure on getting it right. What was it like for your first show? Did it go well? Would you change anything? Anything that you feel like you would have done differently?
I still think about that time as almost like a fever dream, but like a good one. It's kind of like, oh God, I got to finish homework. The buzz is about to show up or something. It was a moment of my professional life where I was able to really explore the things I wanted to explore. Playground, Samantha and Paulina were great in helping me kind of organize my thoughts and, the logistic aspect of it. Feeling like I didn't have to take everything on myself was amazing. Playground really helped with that. My wife was a huge collaborator throughout that process. She stuck around throughout every late night. She's doing it again this year, which is amazing. She's using that time when she's working on her stuff, which is awesome. Huge success in my opinion. It was a very important thing that I wanted to include. I think kind of like the pandemic. I'm glad we were safe enough, I think, to be able to host it.
Yeah, a moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the food and the immersive aspect of it, I think, was huge because of how important food is to me, and like I've previously mentioned, and how important it is, I think, to my world and to the Mexican culture. And I think the dinner aspect was just trying to supplement visuals that I was trying to get across. The dinner table is a moment of reprise and kind of like peace, a moment to just be present with each other. And I think that's something I wanted to incorporate into it. It was a huge undertaking, I think, for a debut show, but I felt like it was one of those things that I couldn't pass up any opportunity, and I'm grateful for everyone that helped bring that to fruition.
Yeah, thanks for sharing about that feedback regarding the fact that you had a preview dinner, exhibition, and an artist talk. That's a mouthful. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Yeah. And I don't even think a lot of artists, I bet you are. I don't think a lot of artists have ever even done that triple effect. So that's what's up. And this question kind of leads into that, which is, how did you start working with Playground Detroit? And what advice would you give someone about entering gallery shows?
I've been going to Playground Detroit's shows for a minute now, I think, since I got out of art school. A couple of my studio mates have shown with them group shows or individually, and I just knew they were a player in the city. You don't know how to, it's kind of like a crush, you don't know how to approach it. You don't know how to, if you don't want to get, led on too much and be too needy looking, or, you want to play cool. And so I figured if, I work hard enough, maybe I get noticed or something. But then also they do this thing, which is really awesome of them. They do a emerging artist fellowship with Knight Foundation. And so the 2021 Knight Foundation Emerging Artist Fellowship, I applied for in the winter. It's one of those things that, the winter's kind of dead for muralists and artists generally. I think it's, for the creatives, it's kind of a quiet moment of depression, fear, anxiety, the sads, the winter has something to do with it. Those moments of inspiration, I was like, I'm going to do something with my life. I applied to the Emerging Artist Fellowship. And, it was one of those moments where I was like, I've written artist statements before, but how do I actually write it? So I went on Skillshare and I did write an artist statement class on Skillshare. Shout out Skillshare. I don't think this is sponsored by Skillshare, but definitely they should consider it.
We are expecting sponsorship.
Please. But yeah, so I took a class and it took me through a step-by-step, literally filling in blanks of a worksheet. And then I started to really understand kind of the format of that art speak, how to play that kind of conversation. I was able to articulate it in a way that I feel like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to paint about, and this is what it is I want to say. I pitched a show in the winter, dead of winter, and forgot about it. Went on with my freelance hunt, went out with my bow and arrow, creative bow and arrow, and just trekked through the snow, tried to figure it out. But then, later in the year, I found out I got the fellowship, which is exciting. Me and alongside 10 other amazing artists. They always have a great roster of artists that they're showing. We started kind of getting together bi-weekly or a couple of times a month and kind of talking about our ideas and prepping for the shows. That's how that started. So it was through an application. Not sure if a lot of galleries have that. I know galleries are always there, and they're always looking at artists on social media, and they're always kind of seeing what work is out there, what's exciting, what's new, what's true. For me, I think something that's helped throughout the process is I never felt like I was pandering to the market. I felt like I was making the work I wanted to make in that moment. The sweet spot where I landed on what I wanted to say, and it just so happened to be the things that the market was also interested in. A lot of identity politics in a sense, but also like cultural stories of maybe non-represented folks. And it's not that I was trying to fit into that at all. It just, I kind of landed on what it is that I was experiencing, what it is I wanted to paint about. And it just, like I said, I'm just a filter for myself. My experiences are that of a Mexican-American artist. And I think I was excited and I was able to understand how to like piece the puzzle together in a sense. And through this Skillshare, through the help with Playground and those conversations I had. Because there was a coaching aspect of the fellowship where we got mentorship by the gallerists as well as the other artists that were selected through the roster. We just kind of like gave each other feedback. And that kind of helped me understand the gallery world a little bit better. And really it just comes along with what kind of presence you have online, as well as the kind of things you're painting about, if you know how to articulate it, if you know why you're painting the things you're painting. You know, if you're just painting for the sake of like, oh, here's, you know, this fun little piece I did as a hobby, I don't know if that's really going to catch much attention, but it can, you know, you never know. I think the intentionality behind the pieces, the work, whatever medium it is, I think that's maybe what'll catch attention. So any advice would be just, you know, keep making work and be true about it.
And
Share
apply.
It. Yeah.
Apply to fellowships.
Yeah.
Apply to everything.
Share
Even
with the
if
people.
you think maybe you won't make it, apply.
Anyway.
You know?
Exactly. And I think those applications too, I think help.
Yeah.
Consider your work in a light that you maybe don't naturally consider it, right? It kind of puts you in a place to like look at your work from the perspective of someone that's like, well, you know, what's useful? Why does the world need your work? And then you think about it in that way. And if you're able to articulate it in that way, I think you're also able to paint with more intention or make with more intention.
Yeah, and it's also about marketing yourself in a way for galleries to present your work so people can understand it. And that is something that I feel like is sometimes lost on the creative process of marketing, because sometimes it feels like an ugly word. Sometimes it feels very superficial.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're very true to yourself, like you said, I think that becomes the brand, right?
Yeah.
We don't really intend for it to be a certain way, but it is who we are.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's been debate about whether or not creative people are brands. And in some sense, I think what they're really saying is, are creative people very clear about their identity and their intentions for people to receive that presence in the broadest sense? Whereas I think the word brand itself feels corporate. It feels cold.
Yeah.
It feels like you're capitalizing on something that is transactional versus emotional or personal. So I don't have any like true stance on whether or not someone should brand themselves, but I think that making an impression in the world is branding.
Yeah.
Like the lightest, most open sense.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that kind of leads me into the other interview that you were doing with Shout Out Arizona in 2021, where you were saying that to take on an art career in itself is a big risk, but it's one that encourages self-reliance, curiosity, and growth. So what artistic risks have you taken recently? Do you treat your studio time and your downtime differently? You know, like how do you approach breaks and risks?
I feel like, every day feels risky nowadays for everyone.
The state of the world.
Yeah. They're just inner turmoil is really what it is. No, but I think the risks I feel like I've been taking recently is honestly mainly between like jumping back and forth between studio work and the mural work. I think it's like two mindsets that I have to exist in. And I was recently having this conversation, I think, with my wife. And I was taking a break. And by break, I mean going out to dinner at like 10 p.m. after painting all day because we hadn't spent time together in a minute. And I felt like we needed to go to dinner. So we went out and treated ourselves to a nice dinner and got a little buzzed and talked about stuff. And I think this came up where there's a fluency. I'm having a conversation with a painting when it comes to being in the studio. And I have to remind myself what that conversation is like. So when I get to a piece, I'm fumbling. there gets to a point where the piece where I know what the piece is asking from me in regards to colors or in composition, in regards to textures and little like slight chromatic changes or, lighting moments. And I have to get to a point where we're friendly. The piece and I are friendly when it comes to the studio work. But when it comes to like the exterior work, the mural work, it's a lot of, you're dealing with the elements. It's very physical. You're dealing with your own mental sanity. You're frustrated because you're hungry and you're feeling weak and you're in the sun all day. But you have to finish this soon. Battling with being out there too long and then not having enough time for a show. And so I think the risk is like finding a balance between these things. And I think it's one of those things I'm not necessarily complaining about because I'm grateful, right? And I feel grateful. I feel excited. I feel happy that all this stuff is happening. But there's something about this that doesn't feel healthy. And I think it's the fear of like, no. Yeah. So I think the risk is not saying no. The risk is thinking the work is more important than being a human and, being present in my family life. I have a little brother I love and 6 years old. So there's quite an age gap and he's someone I want to spend more time with. And I think the fear of like, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it as an artist or don't know if I have made it or this will keep going. So I got to keep working. And I think that's like, a Mexican Midwest mentality. That's like a marriage of both.
It's ambition. As a fellow alum of CCS, it's the way that we're taught to think about our work and our art, to be very driven and craft focused. And sometimes we forget that we need to sleep, eat, and breathe. Mm-hmm. Sometimes walking away from something gives us more inspiration than forcing ourselves to sit with it.
Exactly. No, 100%. Mm-hmm. I think the risk also lies in like, what are you losing out? What inspiration are you losing out on when you're working this much or when you're only thinking about this stuff? Some of the work I'm dealing with now or I'm making right now has to do with some of these topics. And so, I think the risk is putting the work first instead of, I'm doing a lot of output, not a lot of input. You got to take in to put out.
So speaking of studio time, this space, it's really cool. I think it's really awesome that you have all these studio mates that are surrounding you. So when you paint, which is very rewarding when you can paint something and have done it solo and not have had any input or any influences where you're literally just creating it. But do you like to have a second pair of eyes to have a look at your work and give you feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think like it's crucial because I think we exist in our heads so much that if we don't have those second pair of eyes or those fresh eyes, we maybe overlook things that we were biased towards. So, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I love my studio mates, but they like to give feedback. It's like they'll walk.
Unsolicited feedback?
Yeah. They'll walk by and be like, hey, that's wrong. You should be better. And I need that. That's why we enjoy being around each other is because we challenge each other to grow and to look at things a little differently and remind each other to take breaks, which is huge. Even in those breaks, we take on feedback, but maybe not necessarily has to do with the work, but just conversations about life or how we're balancing work and life. And I think it's crucial. But yeah, the second pair of eyes is, especially when you're just looking at something for so long, you need it, Mm-hmm. Even if it's to take a break, come back to it, look at it with rested eyes. I think it's important. Yeah.
That and flipping it upside down or like over and looking at it from a different angle to see if you actually drew that correctly.
Yeah.
That's always been something that's kind of in my mind too. It's like, oh, I drew this from an angle, but this angle is weird.
Yeah. Not even that too, but I feel like also just being too hard on yourself. Sometimes like you'll get some feedback and you're like, dude, this is great. Some of your best work. I'm like, what? I feel like it's trash. And then just kind of that like shaking you a little bit, keeping you like letting you understand that it's not that important. Like it's good and just leave it. Let it be, I think that's one of those things that's been super helpful having studio mates as great as mine.
That's kind of a segue into motivation and mentorship as a huge part of being in the arts industry. A lot of times it's the right place, the right time, the right people, and the right subject matter. Can you tell us who are your first supporters and what are your most recent supporters like?
My family's been the first and foremost supporters, I think, forever. I'm very lucky in the sense that I had very supportive parents from the get. I didn't really provide an option that I was interested in other things other than art. So it's not like they were pushing me away from it. They were just like, well, this looks like our son's an artist, so that's it. exist with this anxiety forever, but they were very supportive, and I'm super grateful that that's the case. But then I think throughout college and education and stuff, I think my close friends that are, art related, didn't go to art school with me. They're always just excited that they had a friend that was doing something different, excited about it. And I think my hometown friends, were always super excited that they had a friend that was doing something quirky, So I think that's what it was like initially. And then throughout college, I think I had some great mentors that were just kind of letting me ask the questions and be a fly on the wall and be kind of like an incessant kind of like being that was always there, and just letting me be around. It was a way of showing me support. I think that was exciting. Francis Vallejo was a huge mentor of mine. Recently, Pat Perry's, I've helped him paint a couple murals, and just having conversations with him has been super helpful and eye-opening as to like the view you can take with art and the kind of life you can have with art. Yeah, super insightful dude. My mom's a singer, and she's got this really interesting creative insight also when it comes to like craft or meaning or like self-doubt. There's always some interesting input there too. Great support in that regard. My dad's an engineer, but he's a person that's worked his whole life to get it to where he's at and support our family and get us here to the U.S. And seeing that kind of support, do what we got to do, man. Make it happen. I think that's been super beneficial to me. And, my sister's just been a fan. And then, I think the supporters now have become people that have seen my murals and are excited. And they've followed me because of the murals, and now they're excited because of the paintings too. So it's like kind of this Detroit community that's been super supportive. People around the mural world, I think, that are just fans of the murals in Detroit and follow that. Mm-hmm. They always leave nice comments and let me know what it means to them when they see my mural on the way to work. Mm-hmm. And it gives me a reason, especially when there's self-doubt and stuff. Oh. I think those kind of comments always give me a reason to keep going,
Oh, especially when they've looked up and are able to identify your mural based upon your style. Because with Murals in the Market, especially if you've recognized the artist's work in previous spaces, then you can see the artist and be like, oh, that's who it is. Mm-hmm. But when it's like a newer artist that is, relevant, or they've stumbled upon like yourself, and then they do their research and somebody is like, oh, I know who that is. It's really dope to get that recognition, I'm pretty sure, because it's like, you didn't even have to know who I was. You didn't even have to reach out to me. Yeah. And they did.
Yeah, it's just the Detroit community is so open to art and points of views.
We love Detroit.
Yeah, we love Detroit. We're big fans of that.
Yeah.
I have not left.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's one of those places that like being an artist here feels like anything's possible. Everyone's really open to collaborate. Let us cook, if you will.
The last couple minutes here on this episode, we typically give out airtime for you to promo anything that you need to promo. So let us know what you got going on.
Oh yeah, super excited that I have a duo show with my best friend and studio mate, Michael Polakowski. This show is at 550 Gallery in Long Island City, New York, or September 9th, and it runs through October 8th. So that'll be roughly a month. Following that, I'm doing Murals in Island View, or Murals in the Market. It's a new iteration, but it's going to be over near Spotlight.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll be exciting. A lot of great local Detroit artists showing up this year. A lot of Murals in the Market alum. I'm excited to see what everyone cranks out, and we're all going to be like together on a huge wall, so it's going to be super exciting. And then I have a solo show in March with M Contemporary.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah, but before that, I'm going to be spending a month in Mexico City with my wife, taking in some inspiration, and I'm going to be painting in parks, or maybe not painting at all and just eating. Who knows?
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it might take. Whatever.
Shout out to eating.
Yes, shouts out to food.
What's your favorite snack currently in rotation, if you have one?
Favorite snack in rotation? There's these at Trader Joe's. There's these I think they're rice and cauliflower, white cheddar jalapeno puffs.
Ooh.
They are so good. My wife, anytime we go there, I have to get 2 packs because it's a little shameful, honestly. Mm-hmm. I'll eat them under a blanket or in a corner somewhere. This primal thing that happens.
Goblin mode.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Trader Joe's be cranking out some real addictive things.
Shout out Trader Joe's.
Shout out to Trader Joe's.
Another dream sponsor.
I know, right? Okay, awesome. And then how can people find you? Website, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on all those.
Right.
I'm Montoya _ on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. I have Montoya Art on Facebook, but I barely post on that. I have a love and hate relationship with social media, so I may just ghost for a while and then show up a lot. It's love and hate, but Instagram mostly, and then my website is ivanmontoya.art.
Okay, and that's IVANMONTOYA.art. Well, it's been great having you on our show, our first show at that, The Creative Voice. And for listeners who want to hear more, we'll be covering the key events at the Month of Design. So be on the lookout for new episodes. And you can also reach out to us on our Spotify channel at The Creative Voice Pod. Also the same thing on Instagram. And our email is thecreativevoicepod@gmail.com.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening.
Yay!
Thanks for having me, guys.